This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Hey, have you heard? I'm coming back to give guided tours at the Punk Rock Museum in Las Vegas, Friday, May 2nd, Saturday, May 3rd, and Sunday, May 4th. 2 tours each day, one at 12:30 p.m. and one at 4 p.m. Get your tickets now at thepunkrockmuseum.com. The Punk Rock Museum, where you can expect the unexpected. Like the time I saw Fletcher from Pennywise and Noodles from The Offspring randomly hanging out on a Tuesday afternoon. Or Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers having a casual stroll through. Or the time myself and a group walked around the corner to find Fat Mike grilling a married couple about their, never mind. Join me Cinco de Mayo weekend, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, as I guide you through 5 decades of punk rock memorabilia, flyers, musical instruments, stage gear, outfits, literature, and so much more. Tickets available now at thepunkrockmuseum.com. Hey everybody, today's guest is Josh Goldman, guitarist and vocalist for the Dayton, Ohio punk rock band, The Raging Nathans. Together we compare detailed notes on the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the brand new single, The Grudge, the lead track taken from their brand new album, Room for One More. I had the pleasure of touring with Josh and the guys last year about this time, when they went out with Less Than Jake and Strung Out. They're a great group of Midwest dudes flying the flag of punk rock. The Grudge is a bit more mid-tempo than a lot of Raging Nathans songs, and this is why Josh feels it was a standout, separated itself from the rest of the pack, and was chosen as the lead single. The record was recorded and mixed by Less Than Jake drummer Matt Yonker at his studio Drastic Sounds. The sonics are honest and not overdone. This is what the band sounds like live, exactly to a T. They really hit it out of the park. Josh also had a few nice things to say about John Lewis from the Dopamines, and also gave a nod to T.S. Eliot. So stick around. This was fun. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. 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 All right, Josh. How do you write songs? How does Raging Nathans write songs? Do you come in with demos? Do you come in with an idea? Or do you just kind of do it old school, jam in the warehouse or practice space and go record?
The process is it's been the same for a long time. So like I have songs, like I'll have a complete song, or Nick will have a complete song, or Christian occasionally will have a full song, and they're usually demoed out as best as I can. My ability to demo things on, like, I use GarageBand, so it's like, if you listen to, like, I have albums full of demos that I did, but like, it's kind of funny because the drums on them, it's like, it's the same drum beat on every single, it's just like, you know, but the ideas are all there. And so like, we've been able to kind of get a lot of work done in terms of, everybody's got songs, I'm like, hey, everybody give me the demos. And then we go through them like that.
Okay. And how protective are you or the guys of their own material when they bring it in? Are you allowed to jump on it and say, hey, maybe we should, double this part here or change this part around? How does that process work?
Yeah, that's interesting because that's something that like I've recently started to get better at myself, because what I learned is, people are protective of their own material, and it's like, you could tell the second that you're like, okay, you're jamming and like this song rips, and then you're like, but like, what if we did this here? And then all of a sudden you see someone's face go, yeah, like, and then it's this tension. But what I've started, me personally, try to start to learn is like, these guys in my band are there. We've had the same lineup for a long time, so we're there to kind of like bring the best out of each other, or we're supposed to, music wise. So trusting them and being open enough to let someone give you an idea or like help you in a place that you're stuck in, or just, create a better part or whatever. I'm getting better with that. I'm more open to it. Although sometimes, like, oddly specific parts, it's like, I want that way. It's not all the parts, but like sometimes for example, I'll write a bass part, that I think is sick, and I'm not the bass player.
Yeah.
But when I present that to them, I'm like, look, I don't care what else you do to this, but like I want this one particular phrase or one particular bass line in here.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's still Nick is pretty good about like taking suggestions, and I mean I think to a degree we're getting better at it, but we've traditionally like kind of come into this whole thing with everything like ready to go.
Okay, that's a good point too, because I've had that happen with Roger before. Out of the 300 original songs or whatever my band's written, sometimes I'll come to him, and maybe 2 or 3 times over the course of our whole thing, I've come to him and said, "Here's the bass riff,"
Yeah.
and that's hard for me to do because I can't play bass, and I'm telling Roger, who's a ripper, hey. But sometimes the I call it the pulse, the heartbeat of the song has to be that. It has to convey that feeling, right?
Yeah, and I don't even think that it's necessarily like the notes, right? Or like for me, when that happens, when I'm like, hey, you guys, like I really need you to play this part, this drum beat or this bass line or whatever. It's because it moves the song along in the way that I need it to, like, or that I envision it, and that I'm willing to try it another way, but like usually when that happens, I usually end up getting my way because I'm like, this is how I hear this song, and it needs to be in there. Otherwise, I do really I think it's important to give everybody in the band like total autonomy and artistic freedom in terms of like what they want to play, unless it's like specifically stated like, hey, I think we need to do this here,
Right. Well, you recorded your brand new record that's coming out very soon called Room for One More. You recorded the record at Drastic Sounds in Nashville with Matt Yonker, who is Less Than Jake's drummer. Do you feel that he recorded you, recorded and produced you? And because I know how Matt can be. He'll just have some bands come in. It's like, okay, here's their thing. They'll do it, and then I've talked to him about this. Where other bands he'll speak up a little bit. Hey, maybe we should do a harmony here. How did that process go down?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, Matt, this is the third record that we've done with Matt, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Matt kind of gives us our space to do what we want. I feel like he recognizes that we're that kind of band that we already kind of have that stuff fleshed out, and we know. I personally am looking for a little bit more of like a producer role, like, you know what I mean? This is not a dig at Matt or anything like that. I mean, I think this recording in particular is the best sounding recording that we have. I mean, Matt does an amazing job. He's a great engineer and he's a great hang. And like, I have a great time. I would have like, I mean, I don't know, maybe he wanted more money or something, but like, I definitely like would have paid him more for him to like kind of take more of a producer role, because I feel like, he spends so much time mixing the songs and like fixing the drums or the, like whatever, he edits a lot even while we're there. So it's like, he's got his hands full, and I think we're already there for like a week or
Yeah, well, no, and the reason I brought that up is because you guys are already going through that self-editing process. It's not one guy. You do get together, you do hash out ideas, you do jam the ideas in the songs. Sometimes there's a rough a garage band demo or what have you, but it sounds like you come in, and time is money too. You don't want to be burning up hours in the studio. You go in and you crank it out, and you do your thing. Working with a producer, kind of what you're getting at, going, having somebody give those other ideas and whatnot, can be helpful. But if you don't work with the right guy too, it could be you throw a monkey wrench in things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so I had an experience with the Dopamines, where we worked with Chris Dugan on the 80/20 record, and he really acted like he in that role of kind of engineer and producer. And, with a guy like that, we definitely, we clicked, we worked well together, but the advice that he gave we knew was good advice. So, it was easy to take. And, yeah, I don't know, man. It's like with the Nathans, we crank out so much material. We're always writing. We have 3 people in the band that write songs. So there's never a shortage of material. And the problem for me is I'm always concerned that we need another set of ears on it, because I don't ever want to like do this exact same thing. I feel like we have a style, but at the same time, I do think that each record that we've done is better and different than the previous one in certain ways. And I don't ever want to get stale. And so when I look for somebody in a producer role, when I say that, it's because I really want someone else's honest opinion. A guy that you're paying to record your record is going to do a good job for you, whether he likes your band or not. You know what I mean? Like he's a professional. But I think that someone who is acting in the role of a producer can is really okay with telling you like, hey, this is good, or hey man, this is not good. And that's what I feel like we could benefit from as a band.
Yeah, it's interesting too. There's also bands that really didn't have a sound. I've had a lot of them on this show that were like, yeah, we had these songs, but we really didn't develop our sound till we got X producer to come in. And that fifth member of the band kind of gave us our identity and made us who we are. So it's interesting in that context as well. Let's talk a little bit about Rad Girlfriend Records before we get into the track. You started this with your wife, Brandy?
Yeah, I mean, she was, at the time she was my girlfriend, but this was 2000.
So she was the Rad Girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, I would joke that I was the Rad Girlfriend, but but yeah, I mean, and it was my old band was called Rad Company. I mean, it just kind of it just naturally developed, and then this was 2011, I think, and since then, we've put out over 200 releases.
Yeah,
and so I guess it's the 14th year that we're doing it. Yeah, so dude, it's been great because it's afforded me a lot of opportunities to meet really great people and work with a lot of great people that otherwise I don't think I ever would have got the opportunity to. And especially now in the age of back in the day, I felt like, I mean, we'll take Less Than Jake, for example. I think I heard Less Than Jake for the first time on this video game called Skate or something, or it was
probably Street Skater.
Yeah. And when you're a kid and you're hearing bands that you listen to, that you fall in love with, back then there was no internet. There was no so people musicians in particular, to me, always seemed like larger than life. They were
untouchable, right?
Yeah. Just people that they don't really exist. They're they make music and they're rock stars in the terms of that word. And so when Facebook comes out and Instagram comes out, and now people are definitely more accessible. And also when you are in a band and you start to play with, when your heroes start to become your peers, it's a really interesting thing. And Rad Girlfriend Records provided me with a vehicle to work with people that I wouldn't have gotten to meet otherwise, even if my band wasn't blowing up the way I wanted it to. Let's say my band wasn't playing with the bands I wanted to play with, or Rad Girlfriend also provided me a way to work with Leatherface or
sure.
Other musicians that were, to me, untouchable people. So it's been a really good experience, but I do a lot. I do too much. I've never made $1 because I sink every single penny back into putting out more records.
I was going to say, man, I don't envy you. Even back in the day when record labels, indies could, people were still selling tons of CDs and whatnot. I never wanted to do it. I wanted to be on this side of it. I love record labels. I'm fascinated by them, and there's a lot of great ones out there, but it is a ton of work. And you think a speedboat's a money pit, start a record label.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm at a particular age where I missed a lot of things. I missed a lot of things in the 80s and early 90s. And our record label, if it had been around 10 years earlier, man, I think that it could have really made some money, or been a force to reckon with. Once Lumberjack Mortem, once the distributors kind of left the picture,
yeah,
there's not a lot of money to be made. There's not a lot of Spotify happened. Same with the band. I feel like the Raging Nathans were we get compared to a lot of bands that on Lookout or early Fat or Epitaph bands. And I just feel man, had this band been around in the magazine era, we probably would have done it would have been a different story. But yeah, it's interesting, man. The record label is something else.
For sure. Well, I want to get into the track, man. It's the perfect pop radio single length, 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Did you plan that or just happened?
No, but you know, I'm just lucky like that, I guess. You know.
It seems that, well, the intro's cool, man. It's 20 bars total. Right off the top, there's a cymbal and a kick hit, and a guitar right up the middle playing the main guitar hook of the song. It's kind of a central theme to the tune. Another hit happens on bar 5 with a little flam of the snare drum, little fill. Bars 8 through 16, the drums fully come in with everything else rocking away, and we get this triplet fill on the drums right before we get into the verse. Bars 16 through 20, the drums switch up a bit. The double time snare is still ripping, but it goes to the floor tom as well on the drums. It gets super heavy there. And then we get into verse 1. When you die, I will not care. I will not mourn or shed one tear. I should let it go, but I'm just not there. As long as you're still breathing air. That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm an angry guy.
What's going on here?
I mean, you know, these songs, most of my lyrics are very specific about specific things or people. I'm not good at like metaphors, and you know, my stuff is very straight to the point. I write about exactly how I feel at a particular time, and you know, this is certainly about a particular person and a way I feel, and fuck them, you know.
Okay. So and how long ago is this story going? Was this, obviously this is for the new record? Did you have these lyrics for a while, or was this something that you thought of for the new record that happened to you years ago, you wanted to write about now?
No, this is a couple years ago. I mean, it's and also as a songwriter yourself, you probably know this, like, you know, somebody will take a listen to a song and be like, what's this song about? Or this song's about this thing or this thing. But oftentimes for me, one song can be about a couple different things or a couple different people. And it just kind of fits that way. It's like I can start writing about one thing and then end up writing about something else, just because like it's just the way my mind works, or it comes together and fits together. So this is an interesting song because the music was actually written by Christian, and he doesn't write very many songs for us, but he does write, you know, and there are a couple great songs. And I always try to give him credit where credit's due in terms of his songwriting. So like the music is his, and he sent me these demos, and it was probably over COVID or something. And I was like, man, this song, it didn't have any lyrics, you know, it didn't have any melody, it didn't, and it was just like, but he's really good with the demos, and and the drums and everything. I mean, like, he's way better at doing that than me. And so this song, I was like, man, as soon as I heard it, I was like, this has got to be something. And then when we got together and played it in a room together, we were like, oh, like you could just feel that first hit, you know, it's just like, bow. So I had trouble writing lyrics to this because I felt that the music was so good that the lyrics really needed to be on par with the music. And I was having a lot of self-doubt in terms of like what I was coming up with. So what I had actually done was I gave the song to John Lewis from the Dopamines. And I said, more than anything, I just wanted to see what he would come up with and see if it would, like, how different it was from what I did. And I gave it to him, and he wrote lyrics to it, and he wrote a melody to it. And oddly enough, it ended up being similar to like what I had done. So at the end of the day, I ended up using my lyrics and my melodies and stuff because I'm very bad at acknowledging if something that I do is good. I don't know if I constantly am questioning whether this is good or not. And this was one of those tunes where I was really worried about it because I wanted it to be good because I felt the music was so good. And so that's how the lyrics came about. And I wrote the lyrics, and that there's a little line in it that says, "I say whatever."
Yeah, that was the line you had sent me some notes on this, and you said that's the line that John Lewis contributed. And you said there's a story about it. So this is the perfect time to hear it.
Yeah, that was the story. I mean, is that he had written an entire song's worth of lyrics for this, and then we kept the "I say whatever." I feel bad because obviously he worked on it, and I kept 3 words, but
hey man, that's how it happens sometimes. Here in verse 1, we get some really cool harmonies on "When You Die, I Will Not Mourn, I Should Let It Go," and "As Long As You're." And on the back halves, it's just your voice singing there. Talk about that a little bit. It's kind of cool. Right off the top, you get the harmonies there. Was that how it was in your head on the demo, or did you do that just for the recording?
Yeah, actually, it's a little different on the demo. The harmonies are in some other places. But what's interesting is that, so Nick Hamby, the guitar player, him and I have always done vocals, and he has traditionally always done the backup vocals. And on this song, those harmonies are done, the ones that you're speaking about right now are done by Christian, the bass player. And he's got a really great voice for like raspy, like screamy type of stuff that I just can't do. And his register and Nick's are just a lot higher than mine. So I thought that it fit perfectly, and we were really trying to work in more of Christian's, getting him to do some more backup vocals. In fact, we had actually booked like another 2 days at Matt's, or like we went down after the record was recorded, and we went down for 2 or 3 days just to work on vocals, because I felt like, dude, like some of my favorite bands are bands that really work in great harmonies. You know what I mean? And
yeah, no, it sounds really good. The other thing I wanted to bring up here in verse 1 is the vocals sound like they're just peaking, like it's distorted. Did you want that sound on all the vocals?
I don't know.
It's not like it was a recording flaw. It's just they sound raw. Like I figured that's how you guys wanted to sound. They're not really clean and pristine.
Yeah, we are pretty conscious of like, we want good recordings, but like we also don't want overproduced recordings. I mean, people say it's like
too glossy.
I don't need it too glossy. What I wanted, and Matt and I had talked about this in particular about this record, was like, what kind of production do we want on it? And it was like, do you want to go for the super glossy stuff, or do you want to go for something? And like the record that we had kind of settled on was like Young and Good Looking by like the Dwarves, where it's like the production is amazing, but it really captures a natural sound, like from
a live sound,
and that's how we wanted it. And I think that if the vocals sound like that, that's just because like, there's a lot of emotion in the songs that we write, and I think this one in particular, it's angry. I mean, and it's emotive, and if that comes out, then I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. The stereo guitars go to a staccato, dun 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 dun, in the verses after each line. The main riff is still here. Halfway through, the guitars and the band get loud together before the back half of the verses, and I had already mentioned the vocals sound kind of gritty and just really tough here. Also, I know this probably wasn't meant, you didn't mean to do this, but you take a big inhale, a big breath before you say "still breathing air" in verse 1. I thought that was a nice little coincidence there.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a coincidence. That's like when someone says, like, that's like
see, on a Michael Jackson record, he'd be like, "Dude, you got to breathe there. We're gonna crank it in the mix, But here we're gonna go with it was an accident. We get right into pre-chorus too, and man, the harmonies continue here. I'll never know what peace feels like. I say whatever.
Yeah, so like it's actually supposed to kind of be a continuation of the last line of the verse, because it says, What's the last line of the verse?
Yeah, as long as you're still breathing air, I'll never know what peace feels like.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, and you have in this context you have to read it all the way through. That's a good point. You can't just read the second part. Okay, so now I fully get what's happening there. When you say the part I say whatever, it's more of a backing vocal this time. Doesn't really sound like a lead vocal there.
That was one of the things where, because Christian really liked some of the stuff that John Lewis had done. So the original title of the tune was Whatever. and I was like, well, I can't keep it like that. So when I gave it to John Lewis, it was titled Whatever. And I think that he probably had included that in his lyrics. And then Christian was like, well, let's, I don't know if when we were practicing it live, like when he'd done that particular line, maybe he had just, vocalized something but like it ended up being like, oh, let's keep that line in there. And that was his decision. He was like, I think we should keep that there.
Yeah, I think it's cool. The guitar lick goes away here in the pre-chorus. It's just bass, drums, and stereo guitars. And I think it's good that it goes away. That high-pitched guitar has to go away there because it comes back in the chorus. And the intro groove is basically what the chorus is, that double-time snare that we heard back from the top. The guitar lick, however, in the chorus is pushed back to make room for the vocals. And man, the harmonies just keep hitting you here. And, you guys have harmonies in other songs, but it seems like you really went for it here.
Yeah, definitely we're trying. Because, dude, I'm telling you, this is just one of those songs where I hear it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like from the record label and all, like, I have a pretty good ear in terms of, like, what's one of the better songs on the record. And I just knew. I was like, this song is where it's at, man. I was like, this song is good. That's why it's the first song on the record. It's like everything, the lead line in it, it's funny because it didn't really translate, and I wish it would have into the song, but in the verses where it goes dun 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 dun, it was actually like dun 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 dun.
Oh, like another trill in there.
Yeah, on the demos, and it was hard to like. I don't know, man. I don't know what it is about recording demos. It's like it sounds like dog shit sometimes, but you hear exactly like what you were trying to do, and it doesn't always translate in the studio for me.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great point. I've had guitar parts or whatever, vocal little hiccups that I do or something I think is cool, and it works in a demo context. And the first thing a producer or someone in the band will say is, hey man, can we simplify that? And you're like, dude, that's my favorite part. What do you mean? It's like, well, it sounds messy. It's not translating. Can we simplify it? And then if I, once I let the anger subside or my ego, then I go, wait a second, let's try it that way. And it ends up a lot of times being heavier.
Hey everybody, we got a lot more coming up with Josh Goldman after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Any vehicle can take you places, but why stop there? The Alfa Romeo Tonale combines luxurious Italian design and electrifying performance to make every mile a masterpiece and every arrival unforgettable. When precision meets instinct and power moves with purpose, you never have to stay in a lane. Experience a world without limits in the Alfa Romeo Tonale plug-in hybrid. Tap the banner to learn more. Alfa Romeo is a registered trademark of FCA Group Marketing SPA, used with permission.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You don't wake up dreaming of McDonald's fries. You wake up dreaming of McDonald's hash browns. McDonald's breakfast comes first. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Hey everyone, DeMakes here, and I've got some exciting news. DeMakes a podcast is now on Patreon. Your support is what keeps this show going, allowing us to bring you deep dives into amazing songs from incredible artists every week. When you join our Patreon at ChrisDeMakes.com, you'll get instant access to hundreds of episodes of The After Party, our weekly bonus show where producer Chris Fafalius and I talk music history, trivia, tour stories, classic albums, and whatever else comes to mind. Plus, you'll get early ad-free episodes of DeMakes a podcast, unedited video versions of each episode, and, of course, a brand new episode of The After Party every single week. If our show brings you a little joy, help us keep it going strong for just a couple bucks a month at ChrisDeMakes.com. Not ready to commit? No problem. You can sign up for a free membership while you decide. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope to see you all at the after party.
And now, back to the show.
The chorus lyric is pretty simple. Again, we get a really cool harmony, and it's just repeated twice here in the chorus. The light has gone out. The light has gone out.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of about like feeling like any pleasantness is like I'm over it, you know, or like I want to put your lights out. I mean, it could be taken a couple different ways, you know.
Cool. Well, coming out of chorus 1, we don't go into any kind of re-intro or anything. We just go straight into verse 2. We do get, because the intro part's killer, we get that later in the song. We're going to get there, but I like how you didn't use it here. It could have came in right after chorus 1. You could have done a 8-bar re-intro or whatever, 4-bar turnaround and come back in for verse 2. But was this how it was on the demo, just straight into verse 2?
Yes, and this is something that Nick is really good at, and Christian, where it's like, where I would struggle with, where I'd be like, oh, should we put that intro lick back in there?
Yeah.
You know, and they're just like, no. You know, they know. It's like, no, man, this is going to hit harder. And then I think like the guitars are like, are a little different. The riff is the same, but like the drums are on the toms instead of like
yes.
And what's cool about that is like I'm just man, I can execute things. Like I kind of play the role of the captain, but when it comes to like the drums, it's like those guys are really good at. They'll be like Pat, like they'll be like, no man, switch it up, like play it on the toms, play it on the snare drum or like whatever. And I thought that was effective in this at the beginning of the second verse.
Oh my gosh, you could have 30 different drummers come in on a click track with a guitar, guitar and a click, and say, here, play to this. And, you're going to have some guys that are playing it kind of the same, and you listen to those ones, a lot of times it's like, okay, that seems like the simple approach, but you've heard the saying before, what does the song call for? And you can really muck it up with having someone just come in and overplay on the drums for sure.
Yeah, or play the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's one of the problems not problem that I have, but one of the things I'm trying to be conscious of is not doing the same thing constantly. And so, I think Pat does a good job there of kind of switching it up. I'll show you fear with a handful of dust. These guys are real. Let it taste the skies for memories. And hate I feel for the enemy of anything real. Well, we get a little poetic reference on the first line in verse 2. This comes from, and this was in your notes, thanks for sending this over, T.S. Eliot wrote a poem in 1922 called The Wasteland. It was a work that explores both personal trauma, global trauma, and collapse. And one of the quotes from it was the first line here, I'll show you fear and a handful of dust. These ghosts are real, and this disgust. For memories and hate I feel, the enemy of anything real. How'd this line end up getting in here? So for me, it came from a Stephen King book called The Wastelands, where he had used that, where T.S. Eliot's, that quote as a chapter in his book. And I don't know, it was just one of those things where I was like, where the words fit, and it popped into my brain, and it kind of fit with the rest of the song. And this is something where I will agonize over, and I'll have like a dilemma whether or not like it's okay to do that, or like, not use my own lyrics or like whatever. But then that particular line, I started thinking about, so one of my favorite bands of all time is Bad Religion. And I was thinking about No Control. And I was thinking about the song No Control, where Greg Graffin says, there's no vestige of a beginning, no prospect of an end. And so like I actually knew that quote because my dad is he's a geologist. And so that quote came from like a book from this guy, James Hutton, and he used that in the Bad Religion song. And I was like, I don't know. It just made sense to me. It was like, to me, I felt like, I'm doing what the guy from Bad Religion did. like I'm putting a literary reference in my.
Hey man, it was lyrical inspirato. Something hit you, and it made you think that. That's really cool. Again, we get harmonies structured like verse 1 here in verse 2. We get harmonies on I'll show you fear. These ghosts are real. For memories. And the enemy. On the second half here, you'd already mentioned the groove of the drums changes a little bit. On the second half, the bass continues playing here in verse 2. Not just playing when those guitars come in like verse 1. So the bass was only hitting those accents, and everything else was ringing out there, and the bass gets busy on the second half. Then we get into pre-chorus 2. Same lyrics here. I'll never know what peace feels like. I say whatever. However, this time the I say whatever, it's more like a lead vocal. Doesn't sound like the backing thing to me.
I would agree with that. It's kind of more upfront in the mix.
Yeah. Did you talk about that? Because it's cool.
No, we didn't discuss that. I think a lot of this stuff, it came naturally. Like, And then in the mixing process, it could have been. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like we have so many songs that we go through.
Well, and sometimes that happens in the mixing process for whatever reason. Maybe you sang it a little harder the second time, and maybe it's just up in the mix a little bit, and it comes across more as a lead vocal, and the other time it came across more as a backing vocal. But I think it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I trust Matt's ear too. So it's like that could have very well been one of those things where like that's what he heard and he put it in there, or at that volume, and then on playback, it's like, yeah, this sounds great.
Right on. Well, chorus 2, same lyric, the light has gone out. You say that twice. There's a harmony on both those lines. It's the same basic musical instrumentation and lyrics as chorus 1. However, here in chorus 2, we get a little post-chorus tag. It's the same setup that we heard right before verse 1. When the drums go to the floor tom there, we get that here. And again, this could have been after chorus 1 over. I like where you put it in the song here.
I think it's good. It builds tension, for what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Everything up to this point on the demo that you recall, was it pretty much the structure and the lyric, or has anything changed up to this point?
Not to this point. Everything on the demo is pretty much where it should be, but this is where the demo differs from what we ended up doing.
Okay. Coming off of chorus 2, we do this cool little half step that goes up to D. Mm-hmm. It's like it feels like a key change. I wouldn't consider it a full, like a full key change that you would automatically hear, but it definitely lifts here going to the D. I really dig it. The lyrics, again, pretty simplistic here. There's not much going on, but I think you say what you have to say. You repeat this twice, again with harmonies on both of these lines. The lyric is, "There's no one home. There's no one home."
Yep. I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, so you have the bridge. I think it's a solid bridge. But one thing that the demo didn't have was vocals over the bridge. And I think that was definitely a conscious decision that we all made, where it was like, and actually not me, because I don't sing that part. Those are those guys. Those are
that's not you on there.
No,
oh wow,
that's Christian and Nick. And so
cool.
I think that the phrase, the lights have gone out. I mean, there's that saying like the lights are on, but nobody's home.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
That's probably where that line gets derived from.
Well, it's a 16-bar bridge. There's a new guitar hook here, and it's interesting. You say that there wasn't vocals originally, because this could have been just a musical bust, a musical interlude, because really the guitar hook is what you're hearing here. Mm-hmm. The lyrics here, "There's no one home," are sporadic. Halfway through, we get the first vocal, "There's no one home." And near the end of the bridge, we also get that vocal. But everything in between is really that new guitar hook that we hear there, that lead vocal. This is followed, this bridge, followed by the intro from the very top of the song. So you're getting those hits again with the main guitar hook. How'd that come about?
This is just where we started to be like, okay, we're getting towards the end of the song. Like, what do we do? And my personal favorite part of that song is the beginning, is the hits, And so it just makes sense where it's like, okay, well, what do you do after the bridge? And it's like, do you go back to chorus, or do we? And it was like, how some things just fall in line, and that's what it was.
That's exactly how I feel about this song. I exactly what you just said. It feels like that part is supposed to be there. You didn't go write some other part. You didn't overthink it. And something I keep wanting to touch on is something you said earlier. You kind of lumped yourselves into the Lookout Records, Fat Records epitaph, and maybe parts here and there, certainly I hear that, but man, I'm hearing way more like Hot Water Music, Sam I Am, Dinosaur Jr., Doughboys. I'm hearing a lot of that influence in here.
And that's awesome, because like I would actually say that bands like that are much more influential to me than like fat bands or like there a lot of stuff like that I don't listen to. Like I don't listen to pop punk really. They're bands that I love. They're bands that did it the best. But for the most part, like I like post punk. I like emo. I like old emo.
Yeah, no, I wanted to bring that up because and even spending time on tour with you, I never really thought of it, these bands, but when I got it under what I call the microscope here, the podcast, where I'm really, really checking out everything, those after mentioned bands really kind of came to mind, which by the way, that tour we did last year, for those that saw Raging Nathans, it was you guys and Strung Out. It was about a year ago from right now. And that was an absolute blast, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man. We had one of the best times of my life, dude. So
that's awesome. Well, this is cool, man. After we get that intro at the top for 8 bars, just basically the same intro at the top, we get into what I'm calling the outro chorus. But this is unlike anything else that's happened in the song. It's its own thing that you have here. And it's kind of strange arrangement-wise. It happens 3 times before the last line of the song happens here. Was this different from the demo? I'm thinking this is where things got shaken up a little bit.
Yeah, this wasn't on the demo. This I don't recall exactly how the song ended like on the demo, but I recall that like I specifically, so I call it the breakdown. And it's funny you mentioned Hot Water Music because in my brain what I wanted to recreate was bands like Hot Water Music, Jawbreaker does it great. Saves the Day on several of those older records. They do great breakdowns like this. And those 3 bands were in particular in my head when What Should We Do Here at the end. And I wanted to break it down. I wanted the drums to hit heavy and hard and slow. And then the amount of times that we play it, I think is because 4 seemed too much. It seemed like by the time you get to the end of the 3rd, phrase of the breakdown, the song's ready to end. I think dragging it out for one more, I don't want to bore anybody.
No, and what you did here, I don't know if you realize it, you did basically the intro. The intro was 20 bars, those extra 4 bars where you go to the floor tom before verse 1. It's kind of like a fake out here. It goes through 3 times, but at the last go around, we get 4 bars of the build up before verse 1 again. That guitar lick comes in there. So before you go into the last line, but there's a bunch of lyrics here. This is repeated 3 times, which we'll get to those lyrics in 1 second. The whole band, you just mentioned, goes halftime. You want it to be heavy here. Sometimes I forget what a great tool it is you have this song that's going for 2 minutes. It's just on this train track going along, and all of a sudden you just go halftime for the last 30 seconds. How powerful that can be. So many old Less Than Jake songs had that. So many old power pop and post-punk bands I listened to be like, okay, now we're going to go halftime. And it's super heavy. The main guitar hook is also here at the end. And here's the lyrics. You're coming to grips with the things that you'll never get. And while this is happening, we're having the other set of vocals with a harmony say the light has gone out. Then you'll say you'll always regret now the light has gone out. There's also a harmony on the light has gone out. And on the line, you'll always regret. Just on the word now, there's an awesome harmony on that.
There's like a scream too at the end.
Yeah. Like who came up with that? That's awesome.
Probably Christian in the studio. It's one of those things where the halftime thing at the end is out of our wheelhouse in terms of what we normally do. You know, we're always playing so fast, man. You listen to the records, it's usually, you know, a couple mid-tempo songs, but for the most part, it's pretty breakneck the whole time. And so this was really, when I heard this whole song as a whole thing, and then it's like, you know, when you get an idea for a song, Chris, and then like it's a good one, and then everything is there. Like it's like everything that is there in your brain, and you can go into and flesh it out. It was like when I heard this song, I knew that like it was gonna be different than what we usually do, and I wish that like we paid more attention in other songs, because I think that we accomplished what we wanted to with this one, especially that last, you know, the last breakdown. That to me is like, yeah, like I wish I want to go in this direction, you know? Like,
no, it's really cool. And this outro chorus, the fact that it does go 3 times, it's cool. But I'll mention it again, that last go around, we get 4 more bars of this buildup, that guitar licks nice and loud. And then we get into the last line, and all you say is the light has, and then just your vocal gone out. And I like that, because it's like it puts an exclamation point on things. It's like gone out. It's just a vocal, and then you hear silence.
Yeah, it puts a point on the bitterness of the whole thing, you know?
Yeah. Who came up with the title, The Grudge?
I did.
You did? Okay, because it was whatever, and then became The Grudge.
Yeah, those guys hate it. They don't like the title. I just couldn't let it be called whatever. It just seemed to me like such a cop-out.
Huh, and talk about that a little bit. We don't get into titles too much here. Why didn't the guys like the title of the song? I've had a few Less Than Jake songs over the years. I'm like, why is it called that? Can't we call it something else? But, you know, a lot of times you chalk it up to artistic merit. This is what the guy wants to say, and you give him that respect.
I don't get too much pushback from them in terms of like my lyrics and stuff like that. They're pretty good about either just not saying anything at all, or, you know, or like
lips shut.
So I was actually surprised when they were like, I don't like this. They liked whatever better, but like it made me feel like, well, the 3 of you are basic bitches.
There you go. Well, you let them know that I said whatever. That's what I said to it. I just said whatever. Yeah.
But like, look, I had to be like, look, man, you know, then you write the fucking song, and you can call it whatever you want.
That's how that should be the soundbite for the ad mats. Yeah, you write the song, be whatever you want. All right. Well, listen, before we break, the record is coming out May 16th. Room for One More. And what else is going on? You got any touring plans coming up?
Yeah, we're doing, we got 5 shows with the Dead Kennedys coming up.
Yeah, I saw that. Awesome.
At the end of the month. And so I'm very excited about that. We got on 2 Screeching Weasel shows, in August. We're doing Pooza Fest, and we're touring up there with Chad Price,
nice,
and his band. Just try to keep it moving, man, you know, and hustle, like, and bother Matt Yonker about putting us on.
Well, keep bothering him, and man, it's great to see you. Thanks for carving out some time to sit in here with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Chris. It was a blast.
Oh, it's so fucked up now, chasing what's left of the dream. And oh, it's so funny how I can't ever say what I mean.
Hey, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed that conversation with Josh Goldman, but don't go anywhere. We got the band you might not know and the rap segment coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase of 16 weeks, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Your data is like gold to hackers. They're selling your passwords, bank details, and private messages. McAfee helps stop them. Secure VPN keeps your online activity private. AI-powered text scam detector spots phishing attempts instantly. And with award-winning antivirus, you get top-tier hacker protection. Plus, you'll get up to $2 million in identity theft coverage, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You might say all kinds of stuff when things go wrong, but these are the words you really need to remember. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. They've got options to fit your unique insurance needs, meaning you can talk to your agent to choose the coverage you need. Have coverage options to protect the things you value most. File a claim right on the State Farm mobile app and even reach a real person when you need to talk to someone. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Pro Savings Days are back at Lowe's with limited time savings on the supplies pros need. Get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, save an additional $100 on every $1,000 you spend on select major appliances. And don't miss your chance to activate and earn 3 times the points on select DeWalt and Klein tools. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/28. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See associate or Lowe's.com for more details on qualifying items.
I was never really a runner. The way I see running is a gift, especially when you have stage 4 cancer. I'm Anne. I'm running the Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America. I run for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute to give people like me a chance to thrive in life, even with cancer.
Join Bank of America in helping Anne's cause. Give if you can at BofA.com/supportAnne. What would you like the power to do? References to charitable organizations is not an endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2025.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey, I'm Chris Fafalius, producer of Chris DeMakes a Podcast, and also host of One Hit Thunder. Each week on the One Hit Thunder podcast, we take a look into a one-hit wonder band or artist to determine if they deserved more success or if they were lucky to even have a hit at all. We've covered When in Rome, Jaquan, Shanice, Yellow, Squirrel Nut Zippers, Jesus Jones, Positive K, Mazzy Star, and hundreds more. With new episodes every Wednesday and special guests from the worlds of music and comedy, we always have nonstop fun, and maybe, if we're lucky, we discover some new favorite music. So if you love great songs and you often find yourself asking, whatever happened to that band? Check out One Hit Thunder wherever you get your podcasts.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is the Elephant March, an alternative rock band from Northwest Indiana, crafting music inspired by limited spaces, dreams, and the surreal world of hypnagogia. Keep your eyes peeled for a full-length record soon. Here's a snippet of their song, Coast to Coast.
A book decides your life, and I can hardly place a proper comma. The spoof, the lies, the government is spying on your grandma. Better shield your eyes, you better shield your eyes.
Peeking through your fingers is the safest way to check for monsters, checking underneath your bed and hiding underneath the covers.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, I really enjoyed that episode. I love how Josh talked about when you're in a band together, your bandmates are there to all bring out the best in each other, and that being open to letting someone help you during the songwriting process is important. Chris, I always want my bandmates to, if they have some sort of way to make a song I wrote better, I'm always open to that. I don't know if everyone who writes songs is, though.
Yeah, and the only time it gets touchy with me anymore is when I come in with an idea, and then if it gets turned into something, and this happens in bands, all of a sudden, like a day later, I'm listening to this song I created, and now it's this thing, and sometimes it's more bloated. It's just, there's more parts, and it loses that heartbeat that I say of the song.
I know exactly what you're talking about there too, because I play in a 5-piece band now, and yes, bloated is kind of a important word there, that when you're in the era where we all have our home studios and everyone does put their touches to it, then all of a sudden you have so much stuff. So that's where it's probably important to have a good mixer involved who knows what to leave out, what to put in. It's so funny, dude. We give the people that mix our songs, we give them way too much stuff always.
Yeah, and they're the ones that have to, make those final decisions of what comes up in the mix. Sometimes what gets left on the cutting room floor, they'll just mute things completely, not even put it in the mix. I brought that up to Josh though because, I know that they haven't, outside of Matt Yonker, worked with somebody who, considers themselves a producer, and it's important to self-edit, and that's what this band does. They go into the studio. They're not going to be wasting a bunch of time. They're going to go in. They have a budget, and they're going to knock it out.
Right. Josh talked about lyrically. He's like, I'm not real metaphorical. He just kind of says it like it is. He says what he's feeling. This song has some angry lyrics, and I can see that. We've talked about it how many times, Chris? You're getting it off your chest. It's like therapy. You're putting it out there, and sometimes you don't have to get super poetic about it. And sometimes that's what resonates with the listener. Something you could just directly be like, yes, I feel that too.
Sure. And I'll tell you, I'm a little perplexed, Chris. I want to get your thoughts on this. What's wrong with the Grudge? That seems like
yeah.
It seems like the least of the band members' worries would be the song title.
That's funny. I wanted to talk to you about that little conversation you guys had. Look, when my band's writing a song now, we're looking for the perfect combo, which is a song title that either hasn't been used or you don't see a lot, and B, it's also what people would call the song if they listen to it. That combination. Now, your band, my band in the past, and so many of the bands from our world of music will name a song something that has nothing to do with the lyrics. Chris, my favorite Less Than Jake song of all time, Scott Farkas Takes It on the Chin. What the hell, man?
Yeah. Well, and that's exactly just it. I think that the 90s bands, you were trying to get heady and be like, yeah, we can have this long, super long title, and it was a thing for a while. I liked it when it worked, but I hated it when it didn't.
Right.
When it's like, what is the hook of it? I'll tell you, nobody, think of all the A&R label people that were out there going, why on earth do you want to name the song this? I believe the first sketch, I remember Howard Benson telling me this, Chris, the I'm Okay, I'm Not Okay, the My Chemical Romance song.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'm Not Okay. Gerard wanted to call that, You Know What Happens to Guys Like Us in Prison. I think that ended up being another song title.
Okay.
But Howard's like, wait a second here. This is a massive radio hit you guys just recorded. This song could be a hit, and you want to title it that? So I do believe the title's important sometimes, but in this instance, I don't know. I kind of like the Grudge better than whatever.
Well, yeah, in this instance, it makes sense with the theme of the song. Maybe he's not singing the words The Grudge, but it at least makes sense. So, I think this one passes as a good song title. Chris, you brought up, Josh and his wife run a record label together, and you talked about how you don't envy him trying to run an independent record label. Neither do I. The amount of work. Chris, do you want to contact every indie record store in the country and try to convince them to stock your records?
No, especially these days. It's it's a lot of work for not much reward. It's definitely a labor of love. Most people that have labels, they do it to facilitate the releasing of their own records, And in Josh's case, it's not just Nathan's records that he's Raging Nathan's records he's released. They have 14 years, I think he said, now over 200 releases. But you're not going to get rich quick off starting a record label. But I give him props.
Yeah, all the people that I know that run independent record labels. My friend Mike Hollins runs a label, TDR Records, and I have other friends who run independent record labels. They do it, like you said, Chris, for the love of it. They love vinyl. They love making these amazing packages, and they just love holding it in their hand. And yes, it's a labor of love. I think that's really cool. One more thing I wanted to touch on from this episode, Chris, because I've experienced the same thing. Maybe you have too. Josh talked about how a song lyrically, when you're writing the theme, it can become an amalgamation of things. Like, you can start off writing about one thing, but by the time you get to the second verse or something, you might be writing about some other thing that happened in your life or some other story you want to tell. But then when it's all said and done, it's up to the listener. Even if that listener is you yourself, you're like, yeah, you know what? This makes sense. And people are going to take away what they want from that anyway. Chris, the last song I wrote was one of these. Just where it started as one thing, and then I'm like, okay, now by the time the bridge came around, I'm singing about a completely different thing, but the listener might not know that, you know?
Absolutely. And sometimes that's part of the writing process. That's part of it. It's something you thought was going to be this, and it goes to this. I don't know if this has anything to do with the writing process, Chris, but if you want to go over to ChrisDeMakes.com, you can join our Patreon. You get all kinds of cool stuff, and you help support Chris DeMakes a podcast. You help us keep the lights on, right, Chris?
You help us support our podcast process, which takes a lot of time on both of our ends. And going to ChrisDeMakes.com and signing up for our Patreon is the most direct way you can support our podcast. Of course, listening to it. And then, you know, if you listen to the ads or if you show it to a friend or leave a review, all those things happen too. But the most direct way to help us continue making this podcast is to go to ChrisDeMakes.com and sign up. For the cost of a gas station cup of coffee or two per month, you allow us to continue doing this. And Chris, like I said, leaving us those 5-star reviews over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify helps as well. And would you like to hear one? I got one pulled up for us today.
I know you got one ready. Let's hear it before we sign off here. What do you got this week?
Yes, Chris, this week we got one from someone named Sal Monstache.
Sal Monstache. I like it.
I don't know if it's a real name or if it's some sort of play on mustache, or I don't know. But Sal gave us 5 stars with the title, Best Music Podcast I've Found. And here is what Sal said. This is one of the only forms of media that I have found that actually gives a good look inside the brain and the songwriting process. I've searched books, movies, podcasts, and YouTube for this kind of material, and it's always a letdown or less than intimate. This podcast is amazing and will audibly clip references to what they are talking about, which is huge and allows you to follow along and discover more music and bands than just the podcast topic. I couldn't say better things about it. Must listen. It's a plus that they are great bands and songs.
I love that. The whole time you're reading it, though, I couldn't help but think, Chris, and I have to ask you, I'm going to defer to you. Could he have been talking about a fish mustache? Salmon stash?
Salmon stash. I didn't think about that.
I don't know. Maybe. I like Sal Monstache, but it could be salmon stash.
Salmon stash.
Or maybe that's a stash. Maybe that's a stash in your garage freezer where you put all your meat.
Ooh.
That's where your salmon stash is.
I was thinking it was you're really you're really chowing down on the salmon and you're getting it in your beard and stuff, and you got yourself a little salmon stash.
There you go. Well, whatever it was, thank you for the review. Keep them coming, and thanks to each and every one of you for listening every week. We love that you listen. We love doing this podcast. Want to thank Josh Goldman from the Raging Nathans for sitting in with us. We'll catch you next week. Hey friends, have you been loving Chris DeMakes a podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
The number you have reached is 100.7 WMMS.
It wasn't just a radio station, it was a lifestyle.
Cleveland is a rock and roll city for sure.
Yeah! Down! The Wrath of the Buzzard. WMMS. Cleveland.
The rise and fall of one of the most iconic radio stations in America.
Profiles, The Wrath of the Buzzard, PROH Files. Subscribe now wherever you get podcasts.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce.
And I'm Nolan, and this is the Corner of Gray Street podcast. As longtime Dave Matthews Band fans, we set out to create a podcast to dive deep into the past, present, and future of DMB.
Not only do we recap and review shows within an ongoing tour, but we revisit past shows from throughout the band's history, conduct interviews with a wide variety of guests with ties to DMB, and create unique and exclusive content like our Concerts on the Corner series.
Whether you're a fan of the band or just a fan of great music, we think you'll find something you'll enjoy. We can't wait to see you on the Corner of Gray Street.